Hello, and welcome to Tip of the Week by CADtech Seminars, also known as freerevittraining.com. If you want to find out more information about us, check us out on the web at freerevittraining.com. Alright, let's jump in. We're going to talk about working with schedule formats in Revit. This works in Structure, MEP, and in Architecture versions of Revit. I'm working in Revit 2010. Again, works in all versions. If we want data about anything in a model, we can go up top and drop down here. And you'll see under the Create portion of the View tab, you'll see Schedules and Quantities, Graphic Column Schedule, Material Takeoff, Drawing List, and a few other things. We're going to concentrate on Schedules and Quantities and just touch on how to do some create them and then how to format them. Let's say, for instance, I want a, column schedule. We'll just use this column schedule here. We hit OK. Now it's going to ask us what do we want about that column. Now, just for simplicity, I'm just going to grab a whole bunch of things. We'll say assembly code. We'll say base level, base offset, bottom release. Come down here, description, and we'll move that up. If we had a particular mark, which I don't think we do, and even a type mark, we may add that in. Alright, I'll move that up. And we'll move this one up. Okay, so the formatting and the list is right here. How do you want them to actually set up? I'll come down, I'm going to add volume, and just add a few of them in here. Now, the ones that you choose out of the list is going to be different from this. This is just a quick example. So I'm grabbing that information there. Now, at this point, what we're going to do is if we're going to take this information. If you have linked models, you can also include that here. Let's say you're doing floor plans and or door schedules, and you have 2 or 3 different projects, and you want to create a composite list, you can do it here. Now, once we have the list together, we have the ability to move them up and down. So, for instance, if I don't want to mark the first thing, I can move it down or move up, depending on my needs. So you can adjust these this way. The next thing we'll do is we'll move to Filter. Now, Filter would say, well, for instance, maybe I only want a certain columns that fit a certain description, certain volume, etc. Or let's say we'll go back. I'll scroll through here, and we say only find the ones that have, let's say, are a member of a certain family or a certain length, manufacturer, model. So we can actually sort or filter if we need to. One trick, at least on the door side, if we have a door schedule and it has too many doors to fit on, let's say, one sheet or whatever the actual object is, we can run filters, and what we can do is say filter maybe by mark. Okay, now let's say they go through 1 through 300. I can say for this schedule, mark equals, okay, that it is less than, and we put in, let's say, 100. Now it'll look at the marks, and it's going to, this schedule will go from pretty much 1 to 99. Or we can say less than or equal to. So this one will go to 1 through 100, and it would pull that data. Now let's say we had 300. We could create 3 different schedules and put them on 3 different sheets. So that's how you can split a schedule up and put it on multiple sheets. A good little tip there. Next thing, we'll go to sorting and grouping. If we wanted to sort by a certain type, let's say type marks, we could actually say group them, sorting and grouping. We can sort by and also group. I'll say do not itemize every instance. And if we want to give grand totals or footers about the information that we want, so we can change that here. It'll give us different results. Now, the next one here is we'll go to formatting. Now, this is when it comes down to the actual how it's going to be placed on a sheet and what it's going to look like. In here, we're pulling data. Now we're getting into what it looks like. So, for instance, let's say the mark. Maybe we want it centered, so we can say take the orientation, horizontal orientation, heading orientation. We can do some funny things if we want here. We'll just leave that alone. And alignment of the mark. We may say, let's go center. So now it's going to be a center one. We can also go in here and, again, adjust all these as needed down the line. Now, we do have some, for instance, you'll see here it says conditional format. This does not show up in the architectural version. It does show up in MEP and in Structure, the newer versions. It may show up in the newer architecture. I haven't seen it yet, but it might show up soon. Now, what we can do is have conditional formatting. For instance, I'm going to fire this up, and it's going to say if the volume, okay, is, let's say, less than I'm going to say 2 cubic feet. Okay. Then set the background color to, let's say, yellow. So what we can do is we can do some tests here. So we have conditional formatting. So this is a good check. For instance, if we're doing MEP, if the, let's say, I don't know, the certain currents, or we have certain things like airflow that we want to check, we can come in here and actually come in here and say the field, and then the test and the value, and actually highlight things, and we can do some testing along the way. So we hit OK on that. We can also add hidden fields. Now let's say I wanted to sort things in a different way. This gets pretty interesting. So I'm going to go to, let's say, once we go through the list, I'll come back and touch on this. The last thing is appearance. You'll notice that currently it says I'm going to put the grid lines, and they're going to be thin. If I want to make an outline that's thick, I can come in here and make maybe a medium line there. Okay, just go wide. So now we have a line going around it. We can come in here and we'll have title, show title, yes, okay. Show headers, yes, okay. Header text, Arial, and I'm going to change this to, let's say, I don't know, 3/16. That's a bit bigger, just so you can see. We can make it bold or italics, whatever works for you. Now we're going to hit OK, and it's going to create this schedule. Now you'll notice in here we've only got one because of, I guess, depending on how we set these things up. We have one type, and you see the information. Now you see it says the volume is 13.5 cubic feet. Let's go back and look at the chart now. So here's our little chart, and we're going to play with it just a little bit. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to View Properties. Now when Properties comes up, I can go in here to, let's say, Sorting and Grouping. And if we wanted to set some things up, we could say yes, sort by. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is say itemize all instances. By changing that, what it's going to do is when I hit OK and hit OK, you'll see it actually list them all out. Now if each one of these columns had a mark, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they would actually show up. A type mark. Now let's talk about these here. We have individual mark, or instance mark, and type mark. We'll take a look at each one of these and see how they work in the model. I'm going to go back to, let's say, level 1. And in this model I have some concrete and some steel from a previous demonstration. And I'm going to pick on this concrete item here. Now I have a concrete rectangular column. Now if I drop this down, I hit instance property, you'll see within here we have mark. So let's say I call this one 1. I hit OK. Now I'm going to pan on over a little bit, and I'm going to touch on this one, and I'm going to go to instance property and say that's going to be number 2. We hit OK. Now if I was to go to, let's say, annotate, and I wanted to actually tag all these, I could fire off my tag. If I roll over it and I pick on the item, you'll see it brings in certain data. Depending on the tags we use, we could pull different information up. This data can also be placed in the schedule. Alright, now we call this one 1, we call this one 2. Now what I'm going to do is go back over here, and I select the column, and I'm going to go now to type properties. And you'll notice in here it says type mark. Maybe we'll call it, let's say, CC for concrete column. Just to keep it simple, we hit OK. Now let's go back to our schedule. I expand the schedule, go structural column, and you'll notice that the type mark, since it's a type, it propagates through the whole list. This mark goes 1, 2, because each one is individually marked. So this is instance mark, and this is type mark. So we want to understand the separation there if you want to even number them independently or as a type. Now you'll notice here that they're not sorted. Let's go back to our level 1 again, and I'm going to do a number 3 just so you can see. Grab that, go to instance properties, and we'll set this to a number 3. Scroll on down, and we set it to 3. Now if I want to put some other things in here, we can, and just fill in the blanks as needed. Hit OK on that. Now we've added 1, 2, and 3. Let's go back to the schedule, and you'll notice that we have mark, and they're not in any particular order. Well, let's talk about sorting now. I'm right click, go to properties, and you'll see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons here. Now even though it's 5 different buttons, it all goes to the same dialog box, just a different tab. So let's take a look. I'm going to go to, for instance, sorting and grouping. When it comes up, I'll say sort by mark. Ascending. Now do I want to itemize every instance? Yes. I hit OK. I hit OK, and you'll see how it actually puts them in 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that's how we can sort our data in that aspect. Now we'll right click on here, go to properties again, and we'll walk our way on through it. Now we can also add a parameter. Let's say, for instance, I want to put one in front of the other, and it may be just for particular reasons. We can add a parameter, and I'm going to say maybe list order. Now this is done a lot of times when you have, let's say, your drawings, and you want to put for instance, the C in front of the A, or you want to sort them in a different order. But for some reason, you'll notice that it has a tendency to the order that you get when I hit OK. We have sorting and grouping ascending and descending, but there's not one that says put the C in front of the A and different things like that. So what we may consider doing is creating in essence, a holder field or a sorter field. Now say list order. Now I hit OK, and I hit OK on that. You'll see the list order pop up. Now in here, just for fun, you see it says 3, 2, 1, and a whole bunch of them. Now let's say I want these marks to go behind these, right? What I could do is I could come in here and put maybe a 1 in here, maybe a 1 in here, and a 1 in here. I'll actually say A and B. So that is ones. I will just go to maybe a B on here, or A, and then I'm going to sort these backwards. I'm going to put B, C, and D. Now I can have a list that I put them in, a pre-order. Now notice these letters here have nothing to do with this list. But what we can do is we can do something fun like this. I'll right click, hide the column. Okay. Now I can hide the column, and you see it's not being shown, but I can actually use it to sort the data. So I'm going to go to properties, and I'm going to go to sorting. And it's going to say, what do you want to sort by? I'm going to say sort by list order. Now at this time I hit OK. I hit OK, and well, they should have sorted by list order. Let's try that again. Let's go to properties, sorting, list order, ascending, descending. See, itemize every instance, and let's hit OK on that. Then by, well, let's just run it that way. Hit OK, hit OK. Now notice it says 3, 2, 1. So let's take a look over here. I'm going to right click, unhide all columns, and you'll see we have A, B, C, D. So it's actually putting these in order. At least I think it is. We'll try again to mix this up. So I'll put a Z at the first one. Well, let's make one Z so it goes to the end of the list. Z. Alright, now click off of it, and you'll see how it resorted. See? So this list is actually driving the order, not this one. So we can have a pre-list to sort. So it works out pretty well there. We can also have different groupings however you want. Now I'm actually going to hide this. So now the real sorter is actually hidden here. So that's a little trick when dealing with schedules, is to hide the sorter. We'll now go back again and look at some other tips. Go to properties here. We'll go to, again, formatting. And I thought we had a conditional format. We're going to check that out. Conditional formatting. If the volume is less than 2 cubic feet, and then set that. Hit OK on that. Interesting. Volume. And we hit OK on that, and we hit OK on that. So the volume is less than that, and it should be pulling up that information. Okay, conditional formatting, volume. If the volume is less than or equal to 2 cubic feet, and this, set the background 2. Greater than, set the background 2. Hit OK on that. OK. OK. And notice how they're actually turning yellow now. So this is a quick way if we were trying to figure out things. Let's say they had different volumes, etc. We could adjust them as needed, and you'll see they'll actually pop up. And a column may not be the perfect example, but you'll notice that it says if it's more than 2 cubic feet, then it would actually highlight. So let's go back to the level now. And I'm going to take one of these and make it real short. I highlight that, element properties, instance properties, and it is base offset. So let's go and set that to level 1. Let's set it to just maybe 0.6 inches. Or 0.6 inches. There we go. We hit OK. So that's very short. Let's go back to our column schedule now. You'll notice that that one is not highlighted anymore. So you can use that as a quick check. Now it won't show up on the final sheet, but it actually gives us some ways to run some math. Now let's look at some other ways to format. Right click here, go back to properties, and we'll go back to, let's say we did fields. Alright, filters, if we want to filter those out, sorting and grouping, and also using some behind the scenes stuff. Formatting, how you want it to look. Again, this will actually show up on the sheet, and then appearance, again, this will show up on the sheet. So let's take a look at this now. We're actually going to go OK on that, and we hit OK. Now we're going to place it on a sheet. I'm going to add a new sheet in here. So here it is. We're going to take this schedule and we're going to drag and drop it on the desktop here. Now you'll notice by default it's actually quite small. We can actually stretch it by using these little stretchers, just like you would if you were in Excel, to make it larger, and we move it on out like so. Now I'm going to zoom in on it in a moment just so we can see how it looks, and we'll stretch that out like so. Alright, now zoom in, and you will notice that the headline text, or the text up top, is actually larger than this text here. If we zoom in, you'll also notice that that line is larger. So we have the ability to tweak how it looks in this tool here. So we can again stretch them. Now what if we want to change it? Let's say for instance we don't want it to say type mark, we want it to say something different. Now you can't do a lot of editing right here. Alright, we grab on the items. The only real editing we can do is break this and set the column widths. So I break it, you'll notice that it actually goes to 2 columns now. Now by grabbing this little slider, I can move it down, and you'll see that removes from one or adds to the other. Now if you want to put them back together, the trick is you take the little control here, which is to move control, pick it, drag it, and drop it on this one, and they'll merge back together. So that makes them back one. Now the schedule's here, it's looking good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go and play with 1 or 2 more things, and then we'll wrap it up. And pick it, and again to change size, we roll it like so. And if you want to change, let's say we want type mark to be in the center, we go back, properties, and that would be under, let's say, formatting, type mark, center it, and we hit OK on that, and OK, and you'll see how those are actually centered now. So a lot of fun tricks we can do with the schedules here by sorting. And one thing we didn't do, let's go back to properties, is if we wanted to add things up or get a grouping and itemized list, we can say let's sort by this, then sort by mark. Okay, and then if we wanted to, we could add headers and footers and grand totals, and you can start to get kind of crazy with all this. And I'm going to hit OK and OK, and you'll see how it actually changes the list. So in this setup, you can see how those different bits of information come in, and we get some setups there. So it can be pretty wild as far as you want to push these. Now once you get one set up, the real nice thing is you can actually transfer it to another model. So it's set up here, structural column schedule, and if I start a new one, project, and so no smoke and mirrors, I'll start just using a basic one here, and I hit OK. Now in this new one, you'll notice that I do not have any schedules. So we'll take a quick look. Here we are. Notice no schedules whatsoever. Now if I want a schedule, what I'll do now is I'm going to just drop this down, or switch, probably be easier. Switch windows, go back to our drawing here. Now I can take this item and we can hit copy to clipboard, and then I will switch back. Here we are, and then we can just right click. Actually right click doesn't work in this app, so we're going to go back to, say, maybe home, modify, and I'm looking for the paste. Okay, there it is, paste. We can also control C, but I want to do it on the desktop. Paste, and you'll see it actually pasted in. Now the schedule doesn't have information in it, but as we add it, I'll come in here and add, let's say, some columns. There we go. Now, may not be the most beautiful thing in the world, but we have some columns. We go back to here, and you'll see there's our list. So what it's doing is it's taking the information that we set up earlier, and now let's go place it on a sheet. and we drag it and drop it. We need to do a little formatting on this side, but we should be good to go. So that's actually how we set this stuff up. Notice it's looking pretty good, very similar to what we had on the other side, and that's about it. So not too complicated as long as you know a few of the tricks. Hope you enjoyed that. Again, if you need more information about our company, check us out on the web at freerevittraining.com. Thank you.